Welcome to episode 145 of The Endless Stream. I'm Aidan, and this week I am joined by Kevin. We are two artists, illustrators, filmmakers, and all-around shit talkers. And each week we take some of the endless stream of content brought to you through Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, Amazon Prime, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your content. We take a chunk of it, we watch it, and we talk about it. This week we are talking about Jeremy Allen White and Zac Efron, Maura Tierney. Can't remember the rest of the actors in The Iron Claw. On top of that, we touch on nerd news as always, and trailer news, and just the nonsense going on in our respective lives. Aidan cooks his shoes. If you enjoy what you hear, please consider subscribing to the podcast, heading over to iTunes, heading over to Spotify, rating, reviewing, liking, subscribing. All of those good things really help us out. On top of that, you can follow us on Instagram at The Endless Cast, where we put up art and clips to go with each episode. And you can send us an email at theendlesscast@gmail.com. Both Instagram and Gmail are a great place to suggest something for us to watch, disagree with an opinion, reach out, get in touch, tell us what you think. All of that being said, let's get into the episode.
That's the bus I used to get from my old domicile to work. And now I get a different bus, but you'll never know. Because we're not that close.
Oh.
Do you think you'd ever stay over at my house?
Do I think I would ever stay over at your house?
Yeah.
I have stayed over at your house.
Yeah, but like when I'm there.
Oh, well, that's a big ask.
Fair.
Sure.
No,
when are we talking?
Oh no, I rescind my invitation now. Is that the word?
Rescind.
Rescind. I knew I was saying it wrong. Rescind. Just fix that in post, yeah.
Fixing it as we speak.
Great.
How has your day been, sir?
My day was great. Great. Had a good day in work. Tattooed a lovely gentleman from Scotland. He's from Aberdeen, and I gave him his first 3 tattoos today.
3?
Two Queen of the Stone Age ones, and then 1 scorpion on his forearm. It was good fun. And I tattooed a lady after him from Wicklow, and I did a spider on her stomach. So we're a bit of a critters day.
Sounds busy though, right? How many? You did 3 on him and a spider on her. So
yeah, that's kind of like, no, basically time wise, it's a normal day. You know,
okay.
Like it doesn't really matter to me if I'm doing a 3-hour piece or 3 1-hour pieces, if you get me, or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Is there much difference though in like having to prep?
Oh well, like I'm sure 90% of other artists and stuff would say yeah, but not for me. No, like not really. No, like kind of. I just like if I have to draw one big thing, that could take me 3 hours. If I had to do smaller bits, that could take me 3 hours, and then tattooing them is essentially going to take me the same amount of time. The only difference really is like you're putting on separate stencils, but ultimately, like, nah, doesn't really matter. Okay,
and dealing with like people's. Like whatever about the prep, the people as well. I guess you knew what you were doing ahead of time.
One of the Scottish gentleman booked in last night, and then my afternoon appointment had booked in like a couple of days previous because I had space this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have not had a particularly. Have I had a particularly exciting week? Have I had a particularly?
Well, you asked me about my day. You didn't ask me my week.
Let me.
How was your day?
Expand upon that. How was my day? My day was frustrating. I am going to London this weekend, as you mentioned. I believe you mentioned, or did we mention this already? I am going to London this weekend, and I went to pick up my shoes. I have a pair of shoes I like, and I got the soles of them resold.
Nice. You got a cobbler? You got a guy?
I got a guy. This is the 3rd time I've resold them. It's the 2nd time I've gone to this guy. But I said, I'm going away on Friday. He said, I'll have them for you Thursday. And I went down to get them today. And there's a sheet of paper in the window that says, closed for a few days. Sorry. And so I then had to go, well, I don't have an appropriate pair of shoes anymore. I've got runners that are in rag order since I cooked them in your oven. Did you another pair of gym?
Did you cook some runners in my oven?
No.
Okay.
No.
This is why you're. This is why you only say. This is why you're only in my house when I'm not here.
No.
Cook them in my oven. I mean, I just don't understand why. I don't necessarily have an issue with you doing
So
it.
I went and it was very cold in your house because it's very cold in your house.
Well, some of us are made of stronger stock, to be fair. Normally, rural country people are of a hardier kind than you affluent city dwellers. Do you have like heated floors in your house?
No.
I'd say your house is pretty cold, though, no?
Yeah, it's pretty cold. We're having plumbing issues, though. Like, it shouldn't be cold, but we're having plumbing issues.
Been having them for a while. But you heated your shoes up in the...
Yeah, I went for a walk with Bjug, and I was in the grass, and it was the early morning, and it was cold, in your house. That is not a dig on your house, but it was cold in your house, and my shoes were then wet. And I had a day where I needed to then go around and do things, and I had wet shoes, and I'm like, okay, there's a little fire here. I'm going to put my shoes next to the fire. And I was like, I just need to go. I'll turn the oven on and I'll put them just like near the oven and the heat will dry them out a bit quicker. And then I put them too far in the oven. And then I forgot that they were in the oven. And then I smelled the burning rubber and I was like, huh! Or the heating rubber. And I went and pulled them out. And like the various sorts of rubber, they're cooked, they're baked, they're prepared, they're cured in specific ways to have specific consistencies, densities, adhesivenesses. And when you heat them up, it messes with that. So they're not great.
I'm shocked. I'm just learning about this now. But just so the listener can understand, my house is very cold. I bought the house last year. Within a couple of weeks of living here, our boiler went bust. We are trying to get work done to the house, and we don't know what kind of boiler we'll get or where it will go. So we have not got a new boiler. That was last April. It is now almost March, and we have survived the winter without a boiler or any heat, I should say, which is fine. We have an electric shower, so that's pretty easy. But plenty of blankets and hot water bottles. But actually, to be honest, I haven't really done much of that. But I run hot, as you well know, Aidan, as you probably know more than most people.
You're a toasty boy.
I'm a toasty boy. I got the toast inside me. The Living Furnace would be my name if I was in some sort of travelling freak show.
The Toasty Man. They call him the Toasty Man.
What would your
he enjoys the ham and cheese toasty.
People would just come up to me and like they wouldn't be allowed to touch me because you'd have to feel the heat radiating off me to actually understand how furnace like I am. But yeah, what would you be on a travelling circus?
I would be the dweeb.
The geek.
The geek.
The geek is the original term, correct?
Those are the guys that bit the heads off chickens, isn't that what we were saying?
Yeah, they were the unfortunate people without any visible
talents
that would separate them. Yeah. Well, I'm currently reading X-Men.
Which X-Men?
X-Men. I've started number 1.
Oh shit.
Yeah, a couple of issues in. I'm just doing it kind of like in and out of the bus or whatever. You know, I got a cool little epic collection of the first 23 issues. I'm reading that, and I have other bits and bobs, lined up. But I've read the issue where they introduced the Blob, and wild.
Oh.
Well, it's just like they find Charles Xavier detects a mutant, so all the guys go out into town to try and find a mutant. Iceman thinks he found one, but it's actually just a guy using a magnifying glass to burn stuff, not his hand.
Right.
Beast thinks he finds the guy floating above the city, but as he scales the building, he realizes he's standing on a glass perspex box used for some sort of advertisement, and he's in fact not floating. Cyclops, however, traces the anomaly to a freak show and witnesses the Blob in all his glory. And the Blob is, well, despite his name and stuff, well, he basically, he's a meanie anyways. He's not a nice guy. But they're also like, fucking Scott walks in and says like, oh, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. The X-Men don't take no for an answer. And it's just like, you can't force him to join the X-Men, you weirdos. Anyways, that's it. He's in a freak show. Poor old Blob.
Well, that character was always like, did he get more elaborately conceived as he went on. Like,
But
was
they
it,
all,
well, I just mean like at first it was like he's fat, right? But did they give him a weight
No,
or like a density or a kinesia? What like?
oh, so basically, like in the comics or in the first issue, they kind of go on about how like he can manipulate his mass or something like that, essentially. But they do go into how like you can't move him. Once he kind of centers his gravity in a certain place, there's no, he can't move. He
Right.
has like impenetrable skin. He's super strong. He's this and he's that, you know, and he's super fast.
Right, he's super fast. He's like an
Blob
elephant,
is-
like he's all muscles.
Yeah, Blob. Yeah, exactly. Blob is a really fast guy, despite his size.
I was reading a book, which is rare for me.
A book with no pictures.
A book with no pictures. Yeah, I was reading a book.
I don't understand.
I was reading Ian M. Banks's Inversions. I have read a number of Ian M. Banks books. I'm very, very slowly reading this author's books. There's 10 books in the Culture series, and I've read about 4 of them now, I think. And I started in 2015, so I think I should get through them all by 2035.
Right.
As I say that out loud, I'm like, I should hurry this up because I could just read these fucking things.
Yeah, they're young. They're what? They're young adult fiction.
No, they're not young adult fiction. Thank you very
They're-
much. They're
Chick
hard
lit
sci-fi. Thank
young
you.
adult fiction. Inversion is a science fiction novel by Scottish writer Ian M. Banks, first
Indeed.
published in 1998. That's all I want to know about it. What's it about?
So here's what I like about Ian M. Banks's books. They are broad, galaxy-spanning, future civilization level sci-fi things. There are concepts like you would see in things like The Foundation and stuff where, you know, like people live for X amount of time longer than us. They've got clones. Basically, they download their body's consciousness when they go and do something risky so they can always like boot up a new version, like a save point, like a backup version.
Would you have an issue with that, or would you do something like that?
Oh, I do that, yeah.
Yeah,
There's
robots in the way.
AI consciousnesses that are acknowledged as just people. So that like ships are
That's nice.
powered. Ships are powered by some ships anyway. I think are powered by like they have a consciousness. And they're erratic individuals as well. You know, like some of them are normal, some of them are chaotic, some of them are crazy. They've got weird names. The names of ships are funny. You know, like there's a bit of Douglas Adams to them as well. You know, like because the ships get to choose their names. They can be something very fucking weird. People have little like R2-D2 like floating drones that are. But like, there's a lot of that. But there's also this kind of like, there's this idea that like people from the high end of the culture might go to a planet where all intents and purposes, it's industrial revolution era. Mm-hmm. But they're aware that there's this other race of people outside. You know, they're like, oh, we're behind these guys that come to visit us occasionally. Or in the case of this book that I just read, it may as well be medieval fantasy. Mm-hmm. So it's lords playing with catapults. And I read this whole book because I'm not as clued in or paying attention to it as a media or as a culture, as a form.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, it's another Ian M. Banks book, pick it up and read it. And I was like, I read the entire book waiting for it to be a sci-fi book, and it just never was. It was just a fantasy book the entire time.
Oh God.
And I was like, we just spent a book on one of the fantasy planets. Cool.
Oh wow. Okay, interesting.
Now there was one character in it who was like the doctor, and the doctor was like tolerated because she knew more about medicine than anyone else and was a good doctor, but she was very secretive and she had a language that people didn't quite understand. And it's like, so that was somebody from the culture, or like from the expanded universe.
Yes.
But I kept going, okay, they're going to reveal it, they're going to deal with it, we're going to explain why she's here, and they're going to. I was like, nope, spoilers for Inversions. It was cool. It was a cool book.
When's the TV movie out?
I don't know. I don't think that Ian M. Banks books are bound for translation. Now maybe
Adaptation.
Adaptation.
That's the word.
I don't know that they are, simply because I don't think they are as what's the word, as massively celebrated as something like Isaac Asimov, you know, when they go to make the Foundation.
Okay.
And right now, a lot of the fantasy adaptations that are kicking off are very deeply rooted in romantasy, is the word they're using now. Things like, that fairy book, A Court of Thorns and Roses. And that's just like fantasy smut. So it's like Mills and Boons meets Lord of the Rings. Apparently it's the biggest, or one of the biggest genres in publishing at the moment, is just like smutty books. And it makes sense because you have a generation of people that grew up, or a generation of women and men, to be fair, who grew up with Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and all of those things, and they're reaching a point of like they're reaching a point where they want a little more smut in their fantasy.
Regular people just don't do it for me anymore. I want my man in chainmail and a sword.
Yes, and a fairy who can't be with her, but it's a love that cannot be, and yet it is. Oh, what will this do for our people? It's smuttiness.
So you read a lot of it. That it sounds like.
Oh, I'm up to my tits. I'm up to my tits in smut.
Fairy tits.
So I finished that, and I just started watching the pilot of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Do you see that's on Netflix?
No, I didn't. No, didn't realize that. Okay, how do you feel about it?
So far, so good. So far, it's like I don't know if Brian would disagree. Shout out to Brian. Hope you're well.
Enjoy your
rock climbing.
He's going rock climbing, is he?
He's gone rock climbing today.
Oh, with Pete, yeah.
He's got a little weekly rock climbing thing going. We're not recording on a usual day here. We're recording a little early because I'm going away here.
Are you 40 this year?
No.
Next year?
5 years from now.
Are you the same age as Brian?
No, I'm fucking younger than Brian. Brian is older. Okay. Significantly older.
He's not significantly older.
Significantly older.
Okay, well, if Brian is significantly older than you, to you, you're significantly older than me.
Yeah, you're 22. I'm 30. Yeah. Brian's 40. We know this.
Yeah. I hope no one sees us in real life. They'll be disappointed. Someone told me I looked 46.
Well, you've had a tough life.
Yep. They were I think they were nagging me. They
were nagging you?
Yeah.
You're getting hit on a lot at work, are you?
That week I was.
Valentine's, something in the air.
That was the same person.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Busy. Sorry, Avatar: The Last Airbender. So far, so good. So far, it looks cool.
It looks incredible.
There is a thing happening when I'm watching it where I'm just like, do we need this? Like, can I not just watch the TV series? Why am I watching shot for shot this, you know? Like, I was looking at his tattoos going, yeah, of course, just do that. I don't know why they didn't just do that the fucking first time. Like, why do they have to make them more innate? Costume designers that go out of their fucking way to make their lives harder when the design that people want is right fucking there.
Yeah. I know that. I know exactly what you're saying. And sometimes I don't understand kind of that mentality. It's like, hey, we're going to make a thing of this show. It's like, okay, cool. So we have this massive backlog of like resources and material and references and X, Y, and Z. It's just like, yeah, cool. Let's ignore all of it, shit on it, make something that people don't like, and then just like never do anything like this again.
Yeah. Like like I was looking at the costumes that you see in Madam Web, because there's clips of that going around the place and it looks like dog shit. But it's like, we know what these various Spider-Woman costumes look like. Why fuck with them? We had Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, we had Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and guess which version of Spider-Man was the most beloved costume-wise? The one that looked like fucking John Byrne's fucking Spider-Man, you know, like the one that looked like John Romita's Spider-Man when it finally landed. You know, the webs are black on the suit, the glass, the
eyes are white.
The eyes are white and they move. Like once it fucking looked right, everyone was like, "There it is, there it is."
Yep. That's
the challenge is not to redesign the costume. The challenge is to make the costume that everybody loves work.
Exactly, just make it realistic or believable in that world.
Yeah, make it work.
I have.
Did you watch Madam Web?
I've seen some of it. I went to the cinema and I caught the first like 30 minutes.
Weird.
Ding. No, yeah, whatever. You know what? Believe what you want. But yeah, it's dog shit. It's so dog shit. And in the opening scene, there's a part where Dakota Johnson, who I think is great, is talking to, is it Andrew Scott or Adam Scott? Now I get confused.
Adam Scott.
Adam Scott, that makes sense. But it's talking to Adam Scott, and he's Uncle Ben technically, and they're driving through Queens or something, and then she's just like, "Oh, come on, it's not as if you're gonna get like shot here," and it's just like, ugh. Yeah, just it's just a bizarre one. Why did they make a movie like that? Why did they make a movie? Why not just make a Spider-Man or sorry, a Spider-Woman movie? Why not just do that?
Yeah.
Why not just do that?
The moment they were like, when Dakota Johnson was announcing, like, I'm so glad to be able to play this iconic character, I was like, she's not an iconic character. She's not. Like, she isn't. Maybe I'm detached from the fucking comic book world, but she's an oddball fucking footnote that exists in the comic books. A weird element of the fucking animated series, so people kind of know she is. And I'm like, why are we doing Madam Web?
But did Madam Web, like, I can't even remember how, what do you call it, how do I say this? How present she was in that series. But I do remember it ending with her and being like, what the fuck? You know?
Yeah. Now let's go find your Mary Jane.
It's like the time when you're like, and I'm sure it's probably still, could potentially still be in some sort of pipeline, development pipeline. But like when they announced they were going to make an Aunt May movie, and it's just like no one wants that. No one wants that.
What? Why? Why would they?
I don't want an Uncle Ben movie. I don't want an Aunt May movie. I don't want the fucking, you know. Oh, whatever. Yeah, it's just bizarre.
Yeah. Well, look, Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's looking well so far. It was literally that. It was the case of just like.
Digressing. Avatar, I get it. One Piece, I know. It's just like maybe they're hoping to capture a new audience that isn't necessarily interested in anime and all that kind of stuff, but these stories are good and elaborate and people love them, so they're trying to bring it to a new audience. However, I also understand that like we're getting a lot of this stuff. Manga anime has blown up so fucking big.
I think there's a thing as well where people still don't want to watch cartoons.
And I don't get it.
Grown-ups don't watch cartoons.
Get it. But they'll watch fucking... I just said
grown-ups.
Pickle Rick.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get it. If it's not kind of like... I suppose like their people's attention span for cartoons kind of... It's like... Or tolerance for it. It's like if it's absolutely out there, wacky and zany and 20 minutes long and slapstick, fine. But if it's any sort of like... Kind of like, you know... World building, character building, whatever... I think it's people struggle with it because it's just like I'm not going to invest my time into a kiddies cartoon.
Yeah, it's weird that it's because I still talk to people that are just like, oh, Pixar movies, they're my guilty pleasure. It's like guilty pleasure. People have spent their entire lives learning to do this to entertain you, and you think it's something you should be ashamed of. And
they've reached essentially the pinnacle of, you know, what would be considered one of the pinnacles of the industry. You know, getting into the likes of Pixar and doing that stuff at that level. But yeah, so Avatar, I will check it out, man. The trailer looked cool. I didn't watch much of the cartoon. I think they're for kids, but you know what I mean. Any trailers this week? Any movie news?
Let's see. Let's do a quick see. I know there was Borderlands. Did you watch the trailer for Borderlands?
No.
All right.
Is it done in is it done in the style of the game or?
Yeah, kinda. I was very surprised because I was like, that's got a lot that could go wrong, visually. You know, like it's a lot to like commit to.
I've seen some very cool cosplayers pull it off. You know, in a live action sense, but that wouldn't necessarily translate to a movie full of those.
They're going for it. So
interesting.
You have Kate Blanchett and.
Oh, really?
Jamie Lee Curtis and Kevin Hart and Bobby Lee pops up a little bit. I only mention him because I listen to his podcast, so he's been talking about it for fucking ages.
What's it called?
Borderlands. Do you want to have a look at it?
No, I don't.
All right.
No, I'll cue it for later, but just like Kevin Hart.
Aside from that, I
Kate
don't
Blanchett
know.
is in it though. She's great.
It is interesting watching. I'm seeing a lot of like Cillian Murphy's interviews and things happening at the moment. They did like a 60 minutes interview. You can find clips of it, and it's so fucking funny because it's like the guy doing the introduction. It's such a stilted, old time American guy. I don't know. America's probably like, we know who this is. This is this famous person that we like and have a sweet affection for. But he's just like, 2023 was the year that the world learned to pronounce Killian, and like. Every sentence out of his mouth for the first like 2.5 minutes starting this interview process is just like, Ireland is a mystical land of mysticalness, full of enigmas and mystical confusions and puzzles. Killian can be found in mystical bars where stories are told and he wants to be alone. And what does Irishness mean to you? And he's like, there's a moment when he gets asked the first fucking question and his head rolls back and he laughs. And you know in his head he went, for fuck's sake. And then he just has to answer the question. And it's just the Oscar push, you know? We're going to keep seeing these interviews and these like movie star like publicity moments. And it's funny because ordinarily what these are supposed to be doing is landing the fucking... like making him known as a charismatic and charming and wonderful presence. And I look at him and I just see the little bit of like, I fucking hate this, you know? Like
It's funny kind of, but as you touched on a good point there, because like obviously kind of Cillian and Barry and Paul and Andrew and all these Irish
Brendan
actors.
And Colin
but just at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Like, because All of Us Strangers, which I did watch, it was great. All these things. So obviously Ireland is in the public eye a lot. You know, these guys are in there a lot. Like Cillian is everywhere. But it's like it's also kind of has just opened the floodgates to, wow, people really be that ignorant towards Ireland, huh? Like, it's wild. Absolutely wild. People have such preconceived notions of all of this stuff. Mental. It's like you kind of see how like seriously they don't take us, but then you know that's pretty our fault. Whatever.
I think it's just they don't know. Like it's just this caricature of Irish.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like kind of like you know, you could have like kind of like say actors from different places, not just America, there, and they'll be talking to them. But anytime kind of they talk to Irish people, it gets a little bit diddly eye, you know. Just a little bit, and it's just like that's like you wouldn't say that to like a British actor, or you wouldn't go that way with like a French actor. You know what I mean? Like it'll be taken a little bit more. But I suppose people just think, the Irish are great crack. You can have whatever with them.
Cillian, you're great crack, you're great crack. You're great crack with the eyes and the crack in the eyes, cracky eyes. Huh?
It's like I see Cillian now, and it's like God, he looks a little bit different, doesn't he? But then you just realize, nope, he's just getting older. Like it's all.
Fucking 50 something, isn't he? 52.
Yeah, and it's like surely he was a heavily established name in 2023.
This is the thing. Peaky Blinders ran for 6 fucking seasons. He's in 3 fucking Batman movies.
Yeah, he was in Red Eye. That was huge. The Wind that Shakes the Barley did quite well.
Yeah, that won Oscars like fucking mad things.
Yeah.
28 Days Later. I mean, that's 2003, but it's like it's a horror classic.
But like he's known anyways. But speaking of people,
go for it. Speaking of people
that look different than I remember.
Go on.
You watched it. I watched it. The Iron Claw.
Yes. All right. So, Jeremy Allen White.
Hang on, Aidan. What the fuck do you think?
Zac Efron.
Spoiler alert. This is going to be
people.
spoiler heavy. We'll just do a spoiler heavy one because you can't talk about this movie. It's a true story and it's going to be spoiler heavy. I wasn't aware of the true story that it was based on. I have done a little bit more research and I found out more. It's fascinating stuff. Let's go.
Did you enjoy it?
Well, like kind of, yeah. If you can enjoy a movie like that, yes. It's a fucking tough tale of misery and woe.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Fascinating.
Fascinating.
True story. But
so
you were saying Jeremy
Allen White, Zac Efron, other brothers, a father, Maura Tierney, I think, was the mother.
I know her from ER.
Yep, that's the lady.
Okay.
So, first of all, let's talk about the elephantitis in the room.
Man.
Zac Efron has grown to enormous proportions, and his head looks insane. And it takes you out of the movie, man.
It takes you out of the movie, though. It takes you out of the movie sometimes.
It's so odd. It's so inhuman. And then if you Google the guy he's playing, doesn't look like that. Doesn't look like that.
Why did they give him the weird He-Man hair?
I mean, he must have had something like that in the fucking 70s, 80s.
But they could have just done it better. They didn't have to kind of like basically it's just like, he's a different person. Just, Zac Efron should just grow his hair out and they should cut it in a 70s type style and just move on. Move on. But Zac Efron suffered an accident.
Broke his jaw, isn't that what they said?
Broke his jaw. Which, to be honest, like, I'd say that is absolutely true. And I'd say he did get reconstructive surgery and he probably just went too far with the reconstructive surgery.
Yeah, there's an element of, I don't know, there's an element of...
It's Hollywood, like, you know?
Like, once you're fixing the jaw, it's like, well, we could just pull it out a little bit as well and make the chin a little stronger. And, like, while you're recovering, you should probably take some growth hormone just to make the neck a bit... Also, we want you to be this huge wrestler guy, so let's hit you with X amount of steroids. The guy is huge in this movie. So this is the tale of the Von Erich brothers. Kevin Von Erich, Dan Von Erich.
The true story of
Kerry
the inseparable Von Erich brothers who made history with the intensely competitive world of professional wrestling in the early 1980s. It was Kevin Von Erich, David Von Erich, Mike Von Erich, and Kerry Von Erich.
Yeah. And this is, you see their father driving them to wrestling success, the wrestling success that he never had. He seems to be an overbearing parent that puts their, commodifies his love for them. So depending on who's the most successful is the kid he loves the most, which is fucked up. It is a great performance. I think the problem for me with it is this sort of story, true or not, is it falls into the biopic end of things, which is, you know, like rise to success, then excess, disaster, failure, and lessons learned. So
Lessons
Ray, you don't think Zac Efron learned lessons?
2 of Zac Efron's children became wrestlers, I believe.
But were they driven to it by a megalomaniac father with no sense of emotional depth?
Well, I found both parents were quite cold and...
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah. But I know, look, I can't speak for Kevin Von Erich's, you know, life after the fact. I didn't look into that too much. I just do know 2 of his kids are wrestling, and I was kind of surprised because just how brutal they had it, you know. But I suppose you have a legacy, and like if your family or your kind of uncles or grandparents or aunties or whoever was a part of that legacy, you know, you might be kind of enamored by it and think, I want to be a part of that, you know.
I was thinking about it afterwards, the concept of the Iron Claw. When we see Dan deliver the Iron Claw, and when we see Zac deliver the Iron Claw, and the movie, like, they refer to his father's finishing move. They talk about using his father's Iron Claw, and it's this thing that's like they are all within the grasp of their father's Iron Claw, and they all suffer for it. And until they can get out from under it, they can get out from his grip, they can't be better people, if that makes sense. They can't.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
And there's an interesting thing that happens as well, that like this film is riddled with tragedy, and like this is why we say there's a spoiler a spoiler element to this, because everybody fucking dies, mostly, right? And each death and each tragedy and each thing is pretty heavily foreshadowed, usually to Zac Efron's character, and any of these tragedies that happen off screen.
So I will say something about that. You're right. You know, the movie is riddled with tragedy, of course, hence the Von Erich, you know, curse. So there's actually a bit more tragedy in it than you realize.
Tell me more. Was it love at first sight?
So Basically,
Mm-hmm.
there was another brother,
Now, there's a brother they say was dead.
Jake or
A
Jack
kid.
or something.
Right. Is that
So-
the one you're talking about, or is there another one?
There's another one.
Okay. Tell me.
So
'Cause
this
I
is
heard somebody say that this was... They were just like, this is too much of a bummer to even put in the movie.
essentially, yeah. So let me just kind of, I have a thing here that I can read, or else I can just talk normally, whatever you
I
want.
think read. I think let's
Okay.
get the... Well, you tell me what is the most, like, respectful way to deal with what is probably a tragedy. Is it to hear an analytical approach to it?
Well, I know what you're saying. We'll just make
Just tell
clear.
me. Just tell me.
Just my facts, right? The patriarch of the family, he died of cancer in 1987 at the age of 68.
Right.
That's the father. We know he pretty much died alone, as far as I know. But or you know, that's how it was alluded to. But anyways, he 5 of his 6 sons had preceded him, obviously in death. The firstborn, Jack Jr., was accidentally shocked and drowned in a puddle at the age of 6 in 1959 outside their home.
Shocked or shot?
Shocked. SHOCKED.
Okay.
Shocked and drowned in a puddle, which is horrendous.
Hmm.
Then, in 1984, that was in 1959. And then in 1984, David Von Erich died in a Tokyo hotel from... what was it?
Ruptured intestine.
Ruptured intestines, yeah. At the age of 25. Mike, Chris, and Kerry all committed suicide. We know in the movie, you see Mike.
We see Mike and Kerry.
Yes,
Who's
they
Chris?
don't talk. They don't. That's what I'm saying. There's another brother that they didn't include in the movie at all.
Right.
I don't think he was a part of the wrestling thing, but he also committed suicide.
Jesus.
So we know Chris. The movie implies that Chris is essentially forced, or that Mike is essentially forced into the wrestling. That he's more of a musician, and that's where his passion lies.
Yeah.
But he's injured in a. He's injured in the ring.
Yeah, there's a shoulder break or something.
Yeah, and then something kind of goes awry in the surgery, and he essentially gets toxic shock syndrome on his brain and suffers a brain injury, and it's like a shadow of himself.
Yeah.
And that scene in the movie where they're eating at the dinner table when Mike comes home and stuff is so fucking brutal. I don't know what it was, man. It just really hit me hard because, like, you know, there's this
that
guy
thing where you see somebody look up from their meal, happy that they've achieved something.
Yeah.
And looks around and sees that everybody's looking at his minor achievement, like horrified at it, and he's like, "Oh, the thing I did, like I was kind of happy with that for a minute," and it's so upsetting.
And like the fact that kind of you see this guy, and like, you know, in that scene with the dinner table, I was just like, oh god, he used to be like a super talented music. Like, imagine like just like, you know, essentially someone like that, and something like that happened in your life to someone you know, such a great spark, and was like, you know, passionate about music or this or that, and you just see them like a shell of themselves. It's just really sad. It's really horrendous. And then we obviously see Mike goes into his room. He struggles to play music. Oh no, yeah, Mike, and then we see him take an overdose, and then kind of walks out to a lake and dies. That was 1987. It was a year after David died, and Mike was 23 years old. Chris shot himself in the head with a 9mm millimeter handgun in 1991 at the age of 21, and Kerry shot himself in the chest in the family yard in 1993 at the age of 33.
Yeah. Do we know anything about Chris though? You said that it's such a bummer that he wasn't in. Like, why are we saying?
Well, I think
Like,
the only
given
reason,
that everyone else killed themselves, why was it so abhorrent to, or why was it so sad to not include this guy?
I don't know why Chris was left out of it, actually. It's a good question, because I'm just Googling him now, and he seems to have been a wrestler himself. He was a wrestler. On September 12, 1991, about 9 p.m., Chris was found by his brother Kevin and mother outside the family farm in Aidan, suffering from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. According to Kevin, Chris came to him in the middle of the night wanting to back a video cassette recorder, VCR, Kevin borrowed from him. After noticing Chris sitting alone on top of the hill, Kevin went out and talked to him. where he revealed his suicidal tendencies concerning his condition. He had broken his arm earlier that month. After Kevin pleaded with him not to harm himself, Chris reassured him that he wouldn't, but after Kevin left, he shot himself in the head. He was hospitalized in East Texas Medical Center shortly after 10 p.m, where he died about 20 minutes after arriving. 18 days before his 22nd birthday, toxicology reports also revealed cocaine and Valium were in his system at the time of his death. Kevin had talked to Chris earlier that day about 150 yards north of their home where the apparent suicide had taken place. Or apparent suicide note had been left. That's it. Then it just says where he's buried. So yeah, that's pretty brutal. But I don't know why they left that out, to be honest.
Yeah, that is weird.
Chris had several health problems that limited his success as a wrestler. In addition to asthma, his bones were so brittle from taking now I don't know that word. It's prednisone.
Prednisone.
That would often break them while performing simple wrestling maneuvers. After the 1987 suicide of brother Mike, Chris began to experience depression and drug issues. He was also frustrated by his inability to make headway as a wrestler due to his physical build. That's so horrendous.
They just decided that he was too much of a downer to see the one that couldn't even succeed in the ring have regular bone breaks. That's weird. They kind of just omitted him because, like, we've already got a couple killing themselves.
I know, and they also left out the fact that David, when he died in the hotel room, he was a father.
Right.
And his baby daughter
Okay.
died the next year.
Oh, fucking hell.
That's what I'm saying, bro. It's such a brutal story. It's such a brutal story.
Jesus Christ.
And they also... So I had a bit... The only issues I kind of had with the movie, to a degree, after the fact, I guess, is that, like, a lot of how... And I understand it's a dramatization of a true story, but a lot of the events and how they unfold chronologically and stuff aren't depicted realistically at all.
Right.
Kerry wins the world champion. Kerry beats Ric Flair and wins the world champion belt.
Right.
We see him contemplating the victory at home back on the ranch. He's sitting at the table. The belt is there. I think he talks to his dad. He talks to Kevin, but he decides he's going to take his motorbike out for a ride, and he crashes and he loses his leg, or a portion of his leg. That actually happened 2 years after. He won the fight and came off the bike 2 years later. Now, you know, again, it's a movie. You have to take some of these things with a pinch of salt. They're trying to dramatize it, you know. But sometimes it's just like, fuck that. You could have just said, like, fuck it, like 2 years. Like, as in, like, this story is tragic enough without having to kind of, like, tweak things to make it just a little bit more tragic or something, you know?
Well, I was looking at it in terms of, like, the point I was about to make there earlier was that, like, what's interesting in the way that it's shot or the way that these tragic moments occur is that Kevin is presented as this character who is completely under his father's spell. He is destined to be the number one son. He is trying his absolute hardest. He's our He-Man. He's our guy who, like, gets up early and runs when the other lies in. And every step of the way, in following the father's advice and in listening to his brothers, like, when he's kind of given moments in each. He's given moments throughout the film where he knows what the right thing to do is, but doesn't do it, if that makes any sense. So when his father's being too hard on Mike...
They're all both basically under the father's spell.
Yeah, when his father's being too hard on Mike, he goes to the mother and says, we need to fucking stop this. And they're just like, no, don't worry about it. When Dave is sick in the bathroom, he's like, you need to go to a doctor. And he doesn't go. And he finds out. When he's on the motorbike, or when Carrie's going to get on the motorbike, he kind of has a, like, moment where he's like, you shouldn't go on a motorbike drinking. Yeah. And then by the time you get back around to Mike, it's like, you know, this kid doesn't belong in the ring. You told him at the start, you need to go easy on him, stay away from him, you know, and you're putting him in this position based on your father's mania. So, like, I think the decision to have, like, all of the tragedies happen off screen, and we mostly see them through Kevin's reaction. Yeah. And it's 100%. Not until that last one with Carrie that, like, we see this, like, rage and this turn on the father, and it's like, that's enough. This is done. So ultimately, I enjoyed this film. I thought it was very well made, but it also didn't blow my hair back too much either, you know. So it's sort of like, I think this would have been like a TV movie to some degree. back in the day. I think it's like a 3-star, 3.5-star for me because I just know everyone's gonna fucking die, and like I just wasn't too mad about it. There's a degree of like, do we get much of Kerry's character? We see him stretching in the Olympics. He comes back. He's putting some posts up.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I think it's like
they're very
it's
two-dimensionally drawn in some ways.
like I know technically he's one of the bigger names in it, currently for sure. But it's just like, it's also like the Zac Efron and Jeremy movie, and it's just like he's in it. He orbits, It's just, to be honest, even just reading more about Chris and stuff there, it's just kind of like, I just don't know why they had to write him out. But he was in early versions of the script and stuff, but like, kind of what a decision to make. He was 21 when he died, frustrated that he didn't have the same career. And I think they might have kind of wrote him out also because he wasn't as prolific. But it's just like, he was literally one of the brothers. He also committed suicide. It's so integral to the story.
It's so weird.
It's so shit, man. Yeah.
It's kind of a shitty decision, but like, I don't know what the decision making was. Other than like, it's just a bummer. We're trying to serve too many of these brothers. This is such a bummer. We're already going to have 2 of them kill themselves. If a third one kills themselves, it's entering the realm of parody. But it kind of wasn't a realm of parody anyway. I don't know. It's just, did it get any of the old Oscar nods?
I don't know, buddy. I don't know. Like, I enjoyed the movie. Like I said, as much as you can enjoy a movie that's as harrowing and as brutal as that to a degree. But I enjoy, fascinating story. But I think it's one of those ones where it's like something, when you watch a documentary about something that you know a lot about, and you're kind of just like, interesting that they said it that way. It's like when I watched Society of Snow. No Oscar nods. When I watched Society of Snow, that was based on the plane crash in the Andes in the 1970s.
Yeah.
I listened to podcasts about it. I watched documentaries about it. Like I wouldn't know a good bit about it. And then it's just like interesting choices for some of the stuff that they do. Like the way they leave out some things, and it's just like there's a story there, and I saw it's just different people's interpretations of these stories. But like sometimes it feels like that's some pertinent information you're after leaving out there, buddy. That serves the truth,
Yeah, I hear you. It's very odd decisions. But
would I recommend the Iron Claw? Would you recommend the Iron Claw?
I'd recommend the Iron Claw. Yeah. It does a good job at what it's doing. If you've not watched a lot of biopics, you're gonna go, this is fucking great. I've watched a lot of biopics, so I'm just like, this is little by the numbers, but it's still fucking cool. It's still cool.
Look, it's good. Zac Efron, fair play to him. He's in serious soul shape for the movie. He looks uncomfortable though. It looks like he's gonna burst out of his skin. And I mean like just not. He looks uncomfortable as in like his demeanor. I mean like he's just so swole. Is that the expression? He's
pretty fucking swole. Yeah, if you want to use the parlance of our times. He's
swole. Yeah, like kind of. I'd recommend it. People want to go watch it. Go watch it. It's brutal. It's sad.
Yes.
And his dad was a real piece of work. Yeah. And their mother wasn't the Mae West either.
Oh, really? Well, just from the movie? Just from the movie.
Like, kind of distant and cold and not very... But it just seemed like the father ruled the roost and she just didn't give a fuck. But it also made them out to be like... I felt less famous than they actually were. And then when you watch it, when you watch it, and there's scenes like where they're kind of going to a funeral, and there's hordes of people, kind of like outside, like on the side, like lined up beside the roads and stuff. It's like, oh, they were super famous, Like I know they were famous. Obviously, they're fighting the likes of Ric Flair and all that kind of stuff. The guys are big, but it's just like they make it look kind of. They make it look really small, hometowny, and that they're going nowhere for ages. But they're at the top of their game. When they're talking about these fights and kind of like the different tag teams and all that kind of stuff, they're huge deals. They're huge events,
Well, that's it. Like, it does look very sort of local, small towny kind of thing, but they were very popular.
Dude, they were fighting Ric Flair for the world champion title. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Was it Nature Boy Wonder Ric Flair?
Yeah, he's a dick.
He is a dick.
Like, he's definitely like a head injury.
Yes.
Yeah. So just as we, because we're doing a briefer, shorter version. Not a briefer. Just as we round out the hour here, have you watched anything else this week?
I watched. Did I watch anything? I watched Queer Eye, the new Queer Eye. That's always just a wholesome lift, you know. I love the Fab Five. And then Emer was watching some Love Is Blind, the new season of Love Is Blind. I struggle to watch those shows.
Yeah, they're crap.
She was also watching Married at First Sight. And look, look. The thing is, I watch my fair share of crap. Everybody enjoys crap TV, and you know, Emer and I pretty much we watch everything together, anyways. But like, the likes of Married at First Sight is great because Emer kind of watches it, but she's also just like boring flick, like skip it because there's so much repetitive shit in it, you know, and then I can draw away and stuff. But it's just sometimes you get just like burned out from the constant kind of arguments and fighting. Like I get kind of like this can't be good for you, or can't be good for people to be sitting like say an hour every week watching these couples just not communicate and fight, and it's just like it's a hard watch. But I don't know if there's anything else I watched of note. I feel like there was, but no. How about you?
No, I don't think there's anything particular. I've had a sort of like distracted week that hasn't been focusing on watching things. But what I will say is next week we got two things that I'm interested in watching. And I think we should at least watch one of them before we talk, probably again on a Saturday. There's one thing we think we should watch, but the alt to that is I want to watch on Netflix a movie called Spaceman with Adam Sandler. That seems to be coming out next Friday.
Adam Sandler, my man. Yes.
It looks odd. It looks like, I mean, I feel like it's more in his Uncut Gems vein than in his Don't Mess with the Zohan vein. That being said, there might be space for comedy in space. But
in space, no one can hear you laugh. Do you see what I did there, Aidan? Because it's a comedy movie.
I heard
it was a comedy movie. Normally the tagline is "No one can hear you scream." I don't know what that's from. Maybe it might be Event Horizon, but I'm not too sure. But I did a thing because you were talking about Adam Sandler, who's a comedy actor. So I did this thing where I said, "In space, no one can hear you scream," because he normally elicits laughter from people as opposed to screams.
I heard it. Dune 2 is out on March 1st. Oh, yeah. I think we should watch it and we should see it.
I have a cinema date with some bucos from my hometown, Roscommon.
And you're going to see
Dune
2?
But it's later in the month.
So you and I are going to go see it on Saturday?
No.